The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go over to that little icon that looks like a newspaper above the chat box.
Yes.
Okay. And you should see a character just for you.
Oh, Frestioma Oxypea.
Yep. And that is your character. So we're going to build a level-headed elf warlock from the High Plains Desert who had their nose cut off in a duel.
So a good Voldemort.
Yeah. Go back to your character sheet.
The newspaper.
The newspaper. So click on the tab that says character sheet.
Okay.
And we're going to use the character Mancer.
Cool.
And this is the easiest way to set up a character using Roll20. But go ahead and click next for me.
Okay.
And this is where you choose your race, and this is where the where you need the elf stat. It doesn't say that you're a high elf, it just says that you're an elf. If you want to be a high elf, a wood elf, a dark elf, a moon elf, whatever you want to be, we can look up traits on how to do that. But for right now, we're just going to say elf.
Alrighty.
Yeah. All right, and you automatically get a +2 to dexterity because you are an elf and they are very dexterous. And then your alignment. The alignments are lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, neutral good, true neutral evil, and or you can look through up those as well. And then there's chaotic good, chaotic neutral, chaotic evil. Your level-headed elf warlock. Warlocks tend to be more on the chaotic side, and being level-headed, that typically means that you're neutral. You look at all the facts before you throw yourself into a situation.
So chaotic neutral would be good?
I'm leaning toward chaotic neutral.
Okay.
Scroll down for me. A subrace is where you get into the what type of elf are you? You are from the High Plains Desert, so you're probably not a wood elf, hence the name wood elf. Scroll down to the bottom. So language proficiency. So you should already have common and elf. So if you click on there, I think you can get one more of your choosing. So it's really whatever is up to you. The likelihood of a half-elf knowing Dwarvish is very slim. But you are from the High Plains Desert, so you might know Sylvan, which is down at the bottom. So up here, you are a warlock. So when you click on the drop-down menu, you are going to click on the warlock option, just toward the bottom. And this is the part where you really do need the player's handbook, just because there's some things Roll20 does and some things Roll20 does not. And one of those things is it doesn't give you everything that you need.
Okay.
Scroll down a little bit until you get to to the skill proficiencies. So you can have up to 2 skill proficiencies of your choice. So if you want to go ahead and look at that list of things of what is available, I would suggest Arcana and History, just because those are very important for a lot of magic users.
Okay.
All right, and then keep scrolling down for me. Okay, and now with a otherworldly patron, this so warlocks get their magic from a deity of some kind. Because I think the fiend is already preloaded. So just to save time, we can go ahead and just click on the fiend. Okay. But if we had more time to actually investigate, we could go into the Archfey, we could go into the Great Old One and kind of figure out what all of that means.
Okay.
And but for right now, we're just going to go with Fiend. So down in the bar, or down in the chat window, you're going to do \R.
No. Shift. No. That one.
And then the letter R.
Okay.
Space.
Okay.
The number 4.
Mhm.
The letter D.
Mhm.
And then the number 6.
All together.
All together, and then press enter. I'm actually going to have you do this 5 more times. So what you could do is you could do \R space 4D6 and then copy that before you press enter, and then just do that 5 more times. And those are going to be your stat rules, and I'll show you how to use those. 6 times total.
Okay, 6 times total.
Yeah. Yeah, typically you do this first before you do anything else. But I mean, whenever you do it is fine. All right, so with each one of these, we're going to look at them, and even though they gave us a number, we are going to take off the lowest number of each one of these. So the very first one is 14, but since the lowest one is a 1, we're going to take that down to 13, and just, and then 9, 15, 10, 12, and 14. So click next for me, please.
Alrighty.
So this is where those numbers that we rolled up are going to come into play. And I've already written them down, but since we have them off to the right, we can still see them. And we know that the first one is 13, then 9, then 15, then 10, then 12, then 14. So where it says ability score method, and if you want to, you can make this bigger. Like you can click on the little, the 3 bars down at the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, and that can just like make it a little bit bigger. All right, so what we're gonna do is choose custom. Okay, so in the player's handbook, it says that a good quick build warlock, the first stat that you want to be your highest, which is going to be your highest number that you rolled, which I think is the 15, you are going to put that into charisma.
15.
Yeah, and then your second highest is going to be constitution. So that's going to be your 14.
Okay.
And then you have a 13, a 12, a 10, and a 9, and those can be divvied up however you want them to be. Keep in mind that the higher the stat, the more bonuses you're going to get with that stat.
Okay.
If it gets below 10, like you do have a 9 on here, you're going to get disadvantages to that stat. So what you could do is like maybe you're a warlock, you're not very strong, so you'll put your lowest stat in 9. You'll put 9 in strength. You are an elf, so you automatically get a +2 to your dexterity.
Mhm.
So you either you want to make that your large, like your better stat, and put the 13 there, or you can put your 10 there, and that way you still get 12. So that's up to you. You can either get 15 or 12 with that. Then with your intelligence and your wisdom, because you are a magic user, you typically want those to be pretty high.
Okay.
Wisdom more so than intelligence, unless you're a wizard, and then that is flip-flopped.
Okay.
But since you're a warlock, it could be either way.
What 2 numbers do I have left?
13 and 12.
And 12. Alrighty.
Mm-hmm. And that should do that. So go ahead and click next. All right. Okay, for background. This is where it gets kind of tricky because with Roll20, it only has one preloaded background, and that is the Acolyte background. So to save time, that's what we're going to do. And the Acolyte background actually does work pretty well for a Warlock, just because you have a patron. But the Acolyte is typically saved for Clerics. And Clerics are pretty much the healers of the group. But since you're a Warlock and you have a patron deity, it's safe to assume that, yeah, maybe at some point you were an Acolyte. And that you did service to the deity before the deity became your patron.
Okay.
All right, and so with language proficiency, because you're an Acolyte, you get 2 more language proficiencies. So this means that you can, because your patron deity is the Fiend, it's possible that you can now speak Infernal.
Okay.
And I would say it's safe to say that you can speak Celestial as well.
Okay.
Just because those are both very likely languages that you would have come across if you were serving a temple.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, now down to personality traits down there. You can either roll through them and go with like the random ones that are chosen, or you could read through all of them and pick the ones that you think are most likely to fit your character. These also go into your alignment. So you would want to keep in mind, does that either sound chaotic or does that sound neutral? So go ahead and roll and let's see what comes up first. Okay, so what is it? What's that whole thing? I see omens in every event and action. The gods try to speak to us. We just need to listen. Okay. Coming from, like, also think about what you are, a warlock, and you do have a patron. So that does kind of speak to your class. And your because you're an acolyte, it obviously speaks to, because this is a specific acolyte personality trait.
Okay.
Go ahead and roll the second one, unless you want to re-roll the first one.
I like that one.
Okay. So what do you think about that one?
I feel like maybe it does fit.
It is a very neutral stance to things. We go to ideal, and this would be like what you strive for in life. Like what is the type of person you either are or want to become?
Roll. I feel like that fits with the Fiend, and then also like being an acolyte.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so if we're good with that, let's go on to bond. And a bond is why you do something. Like what motivates you besides your ideal. And it could be like a person who taught you something, or a person who wronged you. And so now all you want to do is get revenge on that person. That's not necessarily going to come up under the acolyte background, but it is something to be like, oh, hey, so the reason why my patron chose me over these other people is this, this, and this. So go ahead and roll that.
All right.
So what do you think about that one?
I think it fits, but I don't know if I like it.
Okay, roll again. Let's see what else we get.
Definitely not that one.
What you could do is you can click on the drop-down menu right next to it, and you can see all of the options.
I like the revenge.
Yeah, I can see that being, it does have like a chaotic ring to it. And that speaks more to me as a warlock than it does as because a lot of these are made for clerics. And clerics tend to be on the lawful good side, but you're not lawful good, and you're also not a cleric, so you're actually not healing anybody. But it could be that when you became a patron of the deity, the temple, this also helps you develop your backstory. And this is me just like off the top of my head. It's like if you choose the bond option, it's possible that the temple that you lived in for for your entire life, and suddenly you became a patron of the deity of that temple, or a patron of a rival temple.
Mm-hmm.
And it was purely by accident because the patrons choose you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to do something, and that could play into maybe you were kicked out of the temple because of the patron, or the patron chose you because you did something to get kicked out of the temple.
Okay. Yeah, I like
And,
that one.
yeah. It gives you a lot of options to kind of develop your backstory. That's not something we're going to get in today, just because backstories can take forever to come up with.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, but that is something to start thinking about as well. So,
Okay.
all right. Next is a flaw.
This
Uh,
character doesn't have any.
and that could be a flaw.
On a roll.
Yeah.
Oh, that kind of goes against the bond.
Yeah. Do you see yourself as someone who looks down upon yourself a lot?
I mean, I kind of like the becoming a patron of like an opposite kind of thing for like a backstory, and I feel like being like a chaotic neutral, it's like, well, this is like what I'm into now. Don't necessarily like it, don't necessarily hate it, but it's just like what I'm stuck with. And it's like also possibly like, why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
So I feel like that could work with this character.
So if you feel confident that we have a pretty good realized character,
Okay.
we can go forward and click next button.
All right.
Also, don't forget that you had your nose cut off in a duel. So maybe that's what it was. You got kicked out of the temple because you were in a duel.
Yes. And that's why I judge myself even more severely, because it's like, dang, this nose, it's not
Yeah.
existent.
All right. Go ahead and click on the drop down menu. Go ahead. Yeah, class equipment. And that will automatically give you everything that you need to do. So we're going to be picking our weaponry, like the equipment that we start the game out with, equipment from our background, things like that. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to choose between a light crossbow, a crossbow bolts, which if you have a light crossbow, it comes with 20 bolts automatically, or any simple weapon. So go ahead and click on that drop down menu and look through those weapons and see um, what really strikes out to you.
I don't know why, but it's really, I kind of like the idea of a dagger.
Okay. The next is a component pouch or an arcane focus, and this is where you would choose if you want to carry a bunch of components with you, like things to make up a spell, or if you have an item that is your focus. This one is if you choose between the Scholars Pack and the Dungeoneers Pack. Dungeoneers is more for explorers.
Mm-hmm.
Scholars Pack is more for like the people who study and do all of that stuff.
I like the Dungeoneers pack because I feel like, I don't know, I like the backstory of like him not getting a choice in like who he became a patron of.
And now you get to choose another simple weapon, just in case you run out of spell slots and you need a ranged weapon. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this one is because you were an acolyte at some point in time, you are going to have a holy symbol, a stick of incense, 5 sticks of vestments, common clothes, blah, 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 belt pouch. You also get a choice between a prayer book and a prayer wheel. The only difference is the object itself, but they both have they both link you to your deity or your patron.
I choose wheel.
Okay. So I think that is it for this section. So let's go ahead and go next. And this is a tricky part. So I am going to tell you what to pick on these because otherwise we will be here for 5 years. This one, I'm going to go ahead and tell you to choose Mage Hand for this. So the first thing you're going to do is Eldritch Blast. Okay, so for your second spell, go ahead and pull that down. Prestidigitation is actually a pretty good spell. So let's go ahead and click on choose that one. So for your first level 1 spell, and level 1, level 2, all of that, anything that's not a cantrip, those are all spells that require spell slots. So these have a limited number of times that you can use them before a longer short rest. Go ahead and click the first drop-down menu. So you're probably going to want to do Charm Person and Command. So I think that's it for spells. So go ahead and click next, and then we're going to skip this one because you can't really do anything and go to bio. This is where you'll come up with your backstory. But for right now, the only thing that I want to focus on is your character name. What did I say earlier that you liked was Dilly Doo?
Yeah.
Diddly Doo or something like that.
Diddly. How do you spell that?
Diddly Doo, I think you got it. And then Doo, I think had like Scooby Doo.
101, since we're going with the dog theme.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. All right. Next is a review, and this tells us everything that we may have missed, or because I don't think we missed anything. I think we filled in everything. And then we can go to apply changes once we've decided that we are good.
Diddly do.
Diddly do. Here we have diddly do. This is your sheet. This is everything here. And if you go to, okay, so you see where it's red and it says core?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you click on bio, that will take you to your background. And this is where you, like after this session, if you want to stay in the game and fill out everything, like this is my entire life story. Or this is how I lost my nose. This story of how I lost my nose in a duel. And everything. So this is where you would put all of that information, because this is a process. So it's not going to take 10 minutes, but unless you are just like copying pasting from another game, which I've had to do that before too. So, cool. All right. Congratulations, Diddly Doo.
Thank you.